We are in Irvine, Florida, and we are headed way back off the road. We're going to Antique Emporium. This is a mall that's been in Florida a long time. I have not filmed here before. Definitely feels like old jungle-y Florida. But in reality, as you can see through the trees there, this is right on I-75. It's just one of those locations you have to know to get off at the exit or you would miss. I haven't been here in a long time. I got a great pedal car here once, so let's see what there is.
We haven't even gotten in yet, and I see a sale sign on all this Roseville, so I'm excited to see what they've got.
Chocolate molds, these are cool. The fish with the enamel is interesting on the left. This one's a 3-piece because it's got a handle. It's to make little chocolate eggs, and a lot of the people who buy these actually use them, although a lot of people just like to display them in their kitchen because they're cute. 55 on the bunny, 75 on the dog. Those are 1920s or 30s. Glass Easter eggs were very popular in the late Victorian and early 20th century time frames. And they have a whole box here. The one with the fancier decoration is $48. Belts for advertising. That was definitely a thing in the 70s. This is something that would have been a premium from Cool cigarettes, priced at $25. I see the Pepsi ones the most. Here's what that pachinko machine that we see everywhere looks like when you hook them up. This is part of why they're so fun. They're gaming devices in Japan, and so they were flashy and bright. This one looks like it's from the 70s. Now we get into the heart of the store. It's a neat-looking store. I always like the layout with the balcony. Interesting child's rocking horse. This is English, apparently. I would have expected American because of the swing base, which they correctly say was patented here, but then was produced in England as well. This one's had pretty heavy restoration, but $3.95 is still a good price considering what carousel horses of the same size would go for. Space One I see is having 30% off, so we're going to take a moment here. White Weller pattern with the tulips here. A painted pattern rather than embossed. This is going to be from their late 20s with the ink stamp. There's a very unusual early English Staffordshire tray. This is transferware, very heavy blue, and it's Cape Coast Castle on the Gold Coast of Africa. This with the discount is still, frankly, in my opinion, too much money, but it is a neat old piece. That is going to be our maker information. Actually, I have a lot of deep blue and flow blue pieces. This one with the discount would be $129. It's got a nice base and also an English mark. This is going to be after 1891. The other one doesn't say England, so it's previous to that. Futura is one of the most collectible patterns of Roseville, and the hanging basket is not easy to find. They have this priced about $300. Some Victorian oil lamps. This is what you had in the window if you didn't use a fairy lamp. You actually had some kerosene or lamp oil. You would use these instead because they would burn longer and not catch your drapes on fire because they had a shade on top to keep the flame in place. These are the beaded grape pattern here, priced about $125 each with the discount. Yearling, a very famous book published by Marjorie Kinnan Rawlings. She wrote it not far from here in Cross Creek, Florida. Definitely collectible in its early editions. The Roseville bookends are nice too. They used to sell for big money, like $2.25 a piece. They're about half of that now, which I think is a great deal. That's the foxglove pattern in green. It was just in Mexico, and you certainly see a lot of these crucifixes and carved figures of Jesus or various saints, or sometimes just people doing what people did. These are all 19th century or older. Also from Mexico, this Huichol art jaguar. That's really neat with all the very close beadwork. They have this priced at $435, but it is 30% off. So looking at about $300, which seems in line with prices I saw in Mexico. Very pretty modernist enameled set here from Denmark. This is Rodvod, priced at about $1.25 with the discount. It's nice with the little presentation case, all sterling. Astoria heirloom primarily has opalescent colors, but the bittersweet orange and the ruby here are exceptions to that. They are not opalescent. The bittersweet is not the kind of bittersweet that our swung-based people think of either. Fostoria's bittersweet was a bright orange. The classic Miro shaker here is $19, and with 30% off, That brings it down to about 12, and that's cheap enough to buy, I think. The sterling cigarette cases at the discount are priced close to the scrap metal value of the silver in the $75 to $125 range, but the one I like the best is actually silver plate. It's the one with this very cute fairy on it on the left side. That one's priced around $80 with the discount. Lalique, of course, has made beautiful glass perfume bottles for a long time, but they also started making a fragrance under their brand name, which is collectible as well, particularly depending on the bottle. With the discount, this is around $60. Whole bunch of Matchbox cars, some even with the original boxes they came in. The reason for Matchbox cars is in England, children could bring a toy to school, but it had to be the size of the Matchbox or less. And someone very cleverly came up with the idea of selling cars that size. One's in really great shape, like the Milk Wagon there at $25. Actually, that's a pretty fair price for it. There are some scarce ones. The ambulance there is priced at $200. The Volkswagen Combi camper with its original interior in the box at $79.99. These are not cheap anymore because kids played with them, lost them, threw them away, they rusted. Everyone except my friend Doug on the other end of the valley from where I lived. He kept all of his perfectly, and I bet they're worth a fortune now. On Porpoise is a Wyland figurine, and I just sold my resin Wyland figurine for around $100, which is the price on this one. Here is how cypress lamps were made originally. It's not just a cypress knee. The shade is woven cypress pieces. And this shade has a little bit of a blemish, but that is what you want to see on these. That is the original as they came. This kind of a space was not in this mall the last time I came here. Modern, modern, modern. Look at that amazing floor lamp with the black and white offsetting triangles and the triangles in the shades. That is just fantastic. How much are they asking for that? I'm imagining it won't be cheap because these are pretty hard to find now. Yep, $14.95. I like the gazelles. This is half of this sofa set, which you could separate with the table or push together out of the 60s. And boy, that's really immaculate. And that is priced at $650 now. Sold originally at Gimbel's in New York. And there's my guy. Loved this guy when I was a kid, and that is a poster from that time. And unfortunately, it says it's not for sale. I guess they're using it as a prop. Lucite lamp is only $125. The shade is new. The only issue may be that the finial originally might have been a Lucite finial. Highwaymen art here. This one is Johnny Daniels, one of the more famous of the Highwaymen, priced at $23.99. Isaac Knight here, and then the one on the left is also by Daniels. And yes, the frames should look cheap because they were done very quickly and they used what materials they could get and sold these by the roadsides. So if you reframe them in a fancy frame, it actually doesn't seem quite right. Another really great lamp. This is a Majestic, priced at $535. The prices in here are not cheap, but they're not out of line for what these things are fetching in the market right now. A bunch of the Simone signed pieces here. De Simone is definitely one of the signatures you want to look at on when you see this style of painted Italian redware. Here's another incredible Majestic lamp. Just love that one. What a great design. People had a lot of fun in their houses back in that time. Nicely carved settle bench here. This is Chinese, and this would have been brought back sometime in the early nationalist era, around the 1920s. A lot of people were over there as missionaries in that time. This one is priced at $679. This pressed steel horse is just really cute. It's essentially a pedal car. You can see Mobo, and it's the name on the pedals. This should date to sometime around the 1930s. They have it priced at $550. I got a good deal on the fire engine pedal car the last time I was here. $95. Let's see who the signature on this big modernist looking base is. Definitely not modern. You can tell it's got lots of wear. Well, modernist, but not new. Let's see if we can figure out who the maker was. At one point, they had this at $320, and now it's priced down to $95. No maker name that I was able to find. The iridescent seems a little faded, like it's reacted to something or been cleaned poorly over the years. So I think I'm going to leave it, even though the price seems like a good deal for the size. Royal Ruderstadt is another German company that made beautiful figures along the lines of Dresden and Meissen pieces. This one is by Boner Sohn. It's priced at $185, and look at the detail. And aren't they having fun? And these are Luigi Fabrice. Lots of this sort of handwork and lace work went on in Italy as well. These are late 19th century. And behind a couple of Yadro figures. Eleanor Madenick was a studio potter in the 1980s and 90s who did a raku style glaze. She's known most for her figurals, but you can see a lot of interesting characters. If you look into this graffito, you will see more than meets the eye. And she also did straight character figures like cats that also had this very impressed in size design. This one has a signature from 1988. It's priced at $95, and her stuff typically seems like it sells around this price range. Here's another Eleanor Madenick vase. And this one has a skyline of churches and arched buildings that seem to be of an Arabic or Latin nature. Priced at $125 from 1987. It is a raku style firing, and this is why she's somebody who's starting to catch on as raku catches on in the marketplace. This is a Roseville pattern you won't necessarily recognize. It's got a great golden glow glaze. It is the tourmaline pattern of 1933. This is the mark, not the typical Roseville mark, so it's something you need to look for. And it is on discount for around $200 now. Here's an appealing little piece of furniture. Marble top, definitely Victorian. You can see the candle stands next to the swing mirror. So, hello everybody. This would have been to dress beside in the morning, a very nice little size that would fit in a lot of small places. And it is priced currently with the discount at about $420. On top of it is a Van Brigel lamp with a questionable new shade, but the lamp itself is really neat in that mulberry glaze. And they have that priced at about $300. This is dealer number one, who's been here a long time, and they have 30% off everything because the prices are very old school prices. So it needs to be that discount to be at today's retail, but they do have some great stuff. This Weller vase from the Silvertone pattern from about 1930 is an unusual piece. I like the way that the handles arch back. It's when Weller was just finishing its artware phase. The Bluebird salt box is a little harder to find. Bluebird dishes were very popular between the teens and about the 30s. This one doesn't have a name on it, but I believe this is an American piece. Bluebird was made by a number of different companies. Their price with the discount is about $95, but it does have a crack where it hung once. Francoma trivets, I like the butterfly and the prairie green. Here's a big collection of majolica. Typically the figural pieces will be French. The things with flowers often are French or German. The English made majolica as well, mostly from the late 1800s, and the colors were very bright and the glaze very shiny to reflect gaslight that people were getting in Victorian homes. This lamp is a very, very hard piece to find. It is Roseville, and unlike so many things from the 1920s, it was made to be a lamp. You can see because the top is not a vase that has been plugged. It actually has a lamp stem hole in it, so it was intended to be a lamp. They have a big price on it, about $2,000, but they are really, really scarce. She's very cute. And if looking at cool mid-century lamps lights up your world, well then subscribe if you haven't already, because then you can click the bell to be notified of future videos. We also are very appreciative of the extra contributions our members give, and we do give various perks depending on the membership level you take. You can check that out by hitting the join button if you see it, or by going to the memberships link, which is in the description of every video below the dashed line. Here we have to make a decision. We can go two different ways. I'm going to turn to the right, and then we'll come back and go to the left when we get through here. Another interesting lamp. This one is Capo di Monte from the early post-war era, 1950s or 60s, but no damage. And that's unusual because these usually have a few chips and breaks by now. And They have it priced at $165. More than the items on this shelf, I really like this mahogany etagere itself. This is from right around 1900. You can tell with the beveled mirror and the type of scroll work. It's really quite a delicate looking piece, but if they're made strongly, they're wonderful for display. And we are seeing people starting to pop one Victorian piece in the middle of a room full of modernism just to kind of break up the monotony of a lot of boxy furniture. This one with the discount is priced at about $500. This is the first time I've ever seen the box for the Dixie Dogwood set and what they called the campana shape. Dixie Dogwood was made in Chicago by the Marcrest Company, but it was definitely a nod to Southern dogwood, and it's got hand-painted flowers. Really neat to see the whole set in the box. This dealer is having a sale, so this would be $90 after discount. And yes, there are even plates for escargot, should you enjoy such. These are made in Germany, but even Hall China made a set at one time. It used to be that paper store signs and cardboard signs weren't that sought after, but now that the metal ones are so hard to find, people are interested in these, and this one's in perfect shape, new old stock from the 1950s for new Cavalier king size. The smoke feels as good as it tastes for a while. Names are being to attribute Lucite is important, just like it is with anything else. These mid-century with the interesting shaped backs here, they're almost a keystone shape, from the late 70s or early 80s are Charles Hollis Jones. They do not have a cheap price on them, but they are hard to find in good condition. You definitely have to look for scratches, because if you have scratches in Lucite, you can have it polished out, but it's a little bit of work and a little bit of money. This interests me. It's the Aristo Sports Clock, and it's for timing various events, basketball and football at this point, because this is 1950s, so there's not many other sports being played at this point that require a timer. It's $29, well, I think I'm reading $24 in the box. That actually seems like a pretty good deal, and if it was $1 more, it'd be 20% off, but it's not, so I have to decide if I like it at that price. This ensemble was to scare children into brushing their teeth. They showed you how with this incredible mouth and the giant toothbrush, and then you got a book about a little girl who had no mouth. It looks like she's imagining she does. Big crocodile mouth. This used to sell really well, and lately I've noticed it's slowed down, and I think maybe it's because people are afraid of putting it out and wearing off the colors, but these are all various plain Fire King pieces that were then sent to the Gay Fad Decorating Company in Ohio, and they did the fruit painting on these. I think they're really cute. If you don't mind hand washing, and they're perfectly great. $24 on the big refrigerator dish, only $6 each on the bowls. Used to be these would have sold for double that, and none of these would have been here at that price, but again, I think some people are worried about how to take care of things these days. We have a faster pace of life now. These are really cute with the screen painting. Hey, wait for me. $75 for the set of 6 zombie glasses. 1980s masks are starting to be collectible. You can tell this one is very nicely finished in the porcelain. And I was thinking it might be a clay art piece from San Francisco, but it is not marked. And since there were a lot of knockoffs in the time, I'm inclined not to get it unless I know for sure who it is. Now this one is cute and fun and sparkly, but not nearly as well formed or high quality, and that reflects in the price. How do I look? You almost can't see my beard. This is 25% off all furniture. Unfortunately, they're using this neat old metal hospital cabinet as a display piece, because that's the piece of furniture I see in here that I like. But let's see what they have inside it. A whole lot of early 1900s bottles and poultices and powders, mostly tooth powder. I think someone in here was involved with a dentist. And this is actually a fun specific area to collect. There's the dentifrice powder on the left there. The check glass piece on the right is, they did doctors as well. This guy is about to pull your tooth, as you can see by that wrench. That's a 1980s piece. These little bits, you could also get the Republican elephant, but this is the Democrat donkey. These were done by Listerine, and you put your shaving blades in when you were done with them, and then threw the whole thing away, which is why they're more collectible now. $20 on that. There's all sorts of dental tools here in the $20 and $30 range. If you don't like having your teeth worked on, well, this might be a hard thing for you to wash. Imagine that they didn't have Novocaine for a long time, which is why you should be using your Nordenta saline tooth powder and not having that problem. They are asking the equivalent of $9 each for those. Interesting to see a display really focused on dentistry. These are old glass panes that were painted sometime in the early 1900s advertising the dentist's office, which usually was upstairs in some commercial building. I always like these chip card signs from around 1900. It's not in great shape, but this is a really interesting piece from the 1890s. These are the bellows here. They've obviously had better days because rubber degrades over time. But this is how the dentist could get air to come up, or liquids, or whatever you needed during the procedure. The complete outfit back then was $15. Now it's only $25 in this condition. By the 1940s, of course, these would clip to some sort of a tank, and that way the air came out of this. And that one is only $15. A lot of these things are interesting to people to collect. People who collect oddities will like them. People who are dentists will like them. Here is a really complete set. They could be bought and made a set of the canisters by Lassware from the 1950s in the yellow, and they're in good shape. You can read all the letters. There's no scratches or chips. $45 on the set of canisters, $45 on the bread. And then the recipe box below is $24. I almost never see the bread box or the recipe box. In Victorian times, chenille was made to use in various weavings, and you could do three-dimensional pieces, and some of them ended up behind frames rather than in blankets and on beds. This is a good example here, and you can see how the flowers come off of the surface. It's very cute. It's in good shape. It's done on a nice velvet. And this one with the discount is under $100, and that's a nice old frame as well, so that seems like a pretty good deal. The Lady Chic Beauty Salon, these big old, they called them consolettes, but it was this big poofy thing that you put over your head, just like being in a beauty parlor. The point being that you were probably wearing a bouffant like the gal on the right there. And because of that, you had to have lots of room for all that hair to dry. And look how easy it is to tote around in your A-line dress. This one is priced at $60. I think these are cute, and with the discount, they're about $37.50 a piece. They're French. They're a sort of match set, except the painting in the cartouche of the cherubs here, and you see the musician on the bottom, is matched with a pair of quarters, because I guess they're the ones that Cupid are coming after. You notice this blotchy looking paint that was deliberate to give it some texture from a distance. And then the paint has crackled. Very cute set. More interesting and fun lamps, especially these mid-century ones. They seem to have a pretty good supply right now. This is why I really like Blue Ridge Pottery out of Tennessee. It's just fun. They did a lot of stock painted examples of certain patterns that you see a lot, and then some are more complicated. If you look at this, this is very similar to Italian designs from the 1960s and 70s, but this was being done in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s here in America. Very collectible at one time. A lot of it is still in collections because it's fun to decorate with. This one with the discount is about $80. These patterns are a little simpler and more commonly seen, but when you get into more ornate ones, then prices start to go up. Robert Held recently retired in Canada. He made this very pretty floral base with the iridizing during his career. And this one with the discount is going to be priced around $195, which is not a bad price because Robert Held is definitely up and coming in the market. Also on this shelf, we have some interesting Roseville patterns, and I wanted to show Blackberry because we don't run into too many pieces of that. All right, we're going to head upstairs. Look at the interesting railings. Definitely an Orientalist flair, as they would have said in the old days. Very pretty up there with all the stained glass hanging in the middle of it too. Let's go see what else they have. And we have a greeter right at the beginning. Our greeter is a Peter Kyle painted mannequin. This is an art piece from sometime in the late 90s or early 2000s. And she is priced at about $1,700. Next to it for $700 is this really fun Lucite grandfather's clock. You don't really see a lot of this form with Lucite, but that's certainly showy. Well, I'm seeing sales. I haven't seen a whole lot of things that are priced in a way that I can buy them for resale, but they do have a lot of nice things in this store. Cute spice rack at $28 with the discount. Oh my, they're busy. Lord Extra. This is a perpetual calendar from Germany. This one is priced at $25. If it was in English, that would have sold a long time ago at that price. I like the Telechron ship wheel clock. I've had this a few times before. $40 is a very fair price for it in working order. The red spot was to tell you that it had become unplugged to let you know to plug it back in again, or that it had stopped if there was an electrical outage. Nice view of the rest of the store from up here. I usually avoid being the decanters, but there is the Seattle World's Fair, but the gold's coming off. Probably they poured the booze on it, and the booze is very mean to the gold paint, so you don't want to do that. $24 would have been a very fair price for that particular bottle. Most of them are not worth a lot, but the World's Fair from New York is also $24. The Fisherman's a little harder to find because they would fall off the shelf and break, but we see a ton of the birds and a ton of the Grecian bottles. Mexican onyx and quartz chess set with the board. This is priced at $65, which is a fair price for it. These were very popular gifts that came over with people visiting Mexico and brought them back to the United States in the 1970s. Oh, look at the cute smiley face clock from the 1970s. Only $20. That seems pretty good if it works. That might be something to consider. It's a little scratched on the face, though, and that does affect the value. There's the McCoy Happy Face cookie jar to go with it. This handsome etagere, similar to the ones that we saw before, but this one is in walnut, is priced at $425 minus 20%, so about $350, which is a pretty good deal for these. Again, if you are a collector and you want to display your things out where people can really see them rather than locking them behind a door of a china cabinet, well, this might be the piece for you. I like the Art Nouveau details in the top there, particularly these crests at the top of the open shelves. An advertising piece from Mexico. This is 1980s from Nestle, made by a company that referred to themselves as Montlos. If you're a reseller in a real-world location, I strongly encourage you not to do this. What is to prevent somebody from coming in with a blue highlighter and giving themselves a 40% discount on the things that you didn't want to sell? Honestly, it's much better to have a sale based on something else, either everything or a certain type of item, or perhaps you mark the tag down to the new price and put originally was and now the sale price. I know it's easier to just put up a sign and hit the things that you really want to have go away with a highlighter, but you will definitely stand to be stolen from in that way. I had a dealer who did it in our mall, and we forbade it after that because he was very angry that someone got his Bing & Grondal Seagull dinner set for considerably less than he intended, but that's because all they had to do was put a pink highlighter on it, and it was suddenly a big discount. Lots of comics, and now that Mad Magazine is not the same type of distribution that it used to be with the monthly magazine, these older ones are selling too. Plus, they were lots of fun and lots of social commentary through the ages, so you can get an idea of how people were feeling about things at the time. There's more Santos in this case here, the relic of Immaculate Conception. Sometimes they are painted. You want to try to find colonial era and look for actual evidence of wear. They should look old. They should look like they have some paint chipped off. They should look like they've been touched and held and been around for a while. Taxidermy and sporting goods in here, a lot of bird calls. This is definitely a different kind of space. Little miniature paddles that are advertising, and then actual oars and paddles. They are collectible. People will
display them. We have trout, we have ducks. Do be careful if you buy taxidermy to make sure that the animal that you're buying is not illegal to own where you are taking it, because different states have different rules as well as the federal laws. This is a neat old Plano tackle box holder, unusual store display for $225 from the 1960s. Industrialism seems to have cooled down, but this is a great shelf and rolling cart that would be very practical in a home, and it has some color, and the color might be what sells this. They have it priced at $300. It does seem to be in great shape. This very Picasso-esque looking piece is actually by Pignon. E. Pignon was an artist around 1970, and this one is dated, and it's number 2 of 120, so a low edition number. For some people who collect limited editions, if they're serious about it, a low edition number makes a difference. I'm more interested in the second number, which is how many did they make total, and in this case, 120 of these are in existence. It's a rather plain one, but this is a Tansu chest. They just have it priced as step chest, and their price is really very good. Now, again, it's fairly plain. In Asia, you would see these as actually being a staircase to a loft or a higher place, as well as a place for storage. Here, we typically just see people use them for display. But they have a price of $195 on that. Now, it's 20th century, but it's solid wood throughout, and that actually seems like a pretty good deal. I believe this is elmwood. It would make a great display at shows or in a store. If I didn't have a carload of furniture already, I would probably get that at that price, particularly because I just read the sign and it's 20% off. So, wow, that's hard to leave behind. We'll see if I have room in the car when I drive back through here. With the discount, this is also a pretty good price. It's mahogany, it's Globe Wernicke, and it's a barrister's bookcase, probably 1930s or 40s. Although this style is older than that, I think the way that this one is made is a little bit later in time, maybe 20s, but it's great that it has the base. And with discount, it's only $200. That's $100 per level. I typically get $150 or $200 per level, so there is potential for that one. Behind this nutcracker, who's very cute, and is $28 with the discount, probably German. But I'm looking at these parrot bookends. Now, they're very short. They're not going to hold a lot of books. But it's a very cute design from the 1920s. No maker name. I don't think they were a high-end piece. They're $28 with the discount. I have to say, this dealer is tempting me more than any of the other dealers. Kokeshi doll here is one of the taller ones with bright painting. And that one's going to be $38 with the discount. The fiberglass side table is a Russell Woodard. And with the discount, it's $50. So the prices on the furniture, especially in this space, are really very good. Easy to get excited when you see a good bargain. At first I thought, wow, what a great price. $15, this is check glass. And then I realized it had a lid. That's why you have this indentation here. $36 on the aluminum apple, which is an ice bucket, is a pretty good deal. Well, I'm going to take a look at a half off space because you never know. When something is half price, there's always a chance you'll find something interesting. A lot of these seem like newer Asian items. I do like the glaze on this flower frog, though. This is one of the Torquay potters. They didn't just do motto ware. But at $47.50, well, that would be my retail. This old lap quilt doesn't look like much here, but it's $22 with the discount. I'm going to see if I can put it out and we can see what the design and condition look like. The backing has stripes. This looks like something probably done around 1920. Condition is good. It's a pretty simple design. Sort of a crazy quilt box, but this would have been used on your lap in an open car or a carriage. And really the price is good on that. That might be a take home. I have a friend who likes enamelware, and I do too, so I always look at it. This one's Anne-Marie Davidson. Her paper label isn't always on them, but if you see this AD mark, see the A is inside of the D, that tells you that it's hers. And I'll have to clean this to see if the condition is all right. Sometimes there's cracks and lines underneath that you don't see when they're dirty. But if it's half price of $25, I would definitely take that. This one, you can see has had a bit of a hard life, which is too bad because that's a neat design. And that's also Anna Marie Davidson.
Another example of finding a bargain in this space where it doesn't look like anything else. The Anne-Marie Davidson enamel plates are in a space full of Asian antiques and were overlooked. $3.75 for this interesting looking instrument here. This one is a dulcimer of a certain shape and obviously not meant to be held like the ones that are oblong. That's why it has its stand. Priced at $3.75. Behind we have a pair of Blinko owl bookends. Those are $95 for the set. And a really scary clown lamp that probably looks cool lit because all those marbles would come out. Always in the market for ice crushers and juicers and cocktail shakers. They've got 40 on that one. The Paris, which has a different top than I'm used to, is priced at $38. And then this one, which I believe I already have a version of, is priced at $40. And I'll try to be careful of the whole Aladdin teapot here. Priced at $42. Nice color. They do have a big selection of vintage fashion in the back here as well. This space is 20% off, and they have lots of stuff, including a lot of record albums, but I'm interested in the Black Label sign, which is $60. People try it and they like it. I guess that was true. I'd love to get some more Gillette cases, but at $120, well, I'm not going to get this one. It is cool that it has the old prices on the top, though. One more piece of enamelware here. This one is a no-name, and some of the no-names are pretty cute, too. $15 seems like a good enough price if it was just for you. Well, no pedal cars this time, but a couple of cute enamel plates. And remember, if you want to go to Antique Emporium, it's on the west side of I-75, but you've got to know to take the Irvine exit because otherwise you're past it before you see it. We'll see you here or somewhere else along the way in our adventures soon.
If you enjoyed this video, check out this one. Also, click thumbs up to like this video and check the description for information about our Patreon, our memberships. We've got a lot of different levels with different perks and bonus videos and early content. Also, please do check out our website, theantiquenomad.com, for appraisal help. And we'll see you again for more adventures in the antique and vintage community soon. Bye for now.